We next have another incredible speaker. Helen Hayes is our Labour MP for Dulwich and West Norwood, and was first elected in 2015 and currently serves as Chair of the Education Select Committee. MP Helen Hayes has previously served as Shadow Minister for Education and has been a member of both the HCLG Select Committee and the Environmental Audit Committee. Please welcome to the stage MP Helen Hayes.
Good morning, everybody. Really great to be with you today. And I want to start just by saying a few words about Fatima. So I first met Fatima about a year ago. It must have been a bit more than a year ago. She got in touch with my office and said, I really want to do something about care experienced young people. I want to use my experience to do that. Are you on board? Will you help? Fatima, as I'm sure is the case for so many of you, was already known to me as a very famous face from my childhood. And I remember watching, first of all, as a 10-year-old and then as a 14-year-old, Fatima doing heroic things at the Olympics in Los Angeles and in Seoul, and doing all of us proud and thinking what an extraordinary person she must be to have done that. But I think in lots of ways it's even more extraordinary to take experiences in your life that have been difficult and challenging and to speak about them publicly, and even more so to want to use those experiences to make the world a better place for other people who might be going through similar things. So I think Fatima is a force of nature, and I've seen how determined she has been to get to this incredible event. And my goodness, she has done a stunning job to get all of you in the room over 2 days to have these important conversations about how we can make the system of support for children and young people who are in the care of local authorities work much better. So I want to just first of all say congratulations to you, Fatima, for getting to this point. I also want to pay tribute to all of you who are in the room today. I can see so many familiar faces, and this is a room that is full of experience and it is full of commitment. And I'm convinced always in any area of policy that when we get people together who have that combination of things, a really diverse and rich range of experience, some of them personal and some of them professional, and really profound commitment to make a difference. That is how we move forward, and that is how we deliver change. So whatever it is that's brought you into this room in terms of your experience, know that that really matters, and know that when we work together, we can deliver change. So I'm here today as Chair of the Education Select Committee. For those of you who might not know, the Education Select Committee is a cross-party committee of MPs. We have Labour members of Parliament, of which I am one. We have Conservative members and Liberal Democrat members on our committee. And our job is to scrutinise the work of the Department for Education. So we get to look in detail at any area for which the Department for Education is responsible, to look at the evidence, to take evidence from a wide range of witnesses, and to make recommendations for the government about what needs to happen next, where things need to be better, and where things need to be driven forward. And our first decision as a select committee at the beginning of this new parliament, the election was in July, we were set up as a committee in the autumn, but we decided right away that the first thing we were going to do was to reopen an inquiry on children's social care, which had been started by the predecessor committee before the election and interrupted by the election. And it was immediately obvious that this was far too important a piece of work just to be left to drop with the election, and we must carry on with it. But we wanted to make some changes to the way that that inquiry had been running. And chief amongst them, we really wanted to put the voices of young people with experience of care at the centre of our inquiry. And the previous committee hadn't heard directly from young people with experience of the care system. And so we had an incredibly powerful evidence session in Parliament where we heard from a panel of young adults with recent experience of the care system. And it was extraordinary. I've never seen, I mean, we're always engaged in listening to our witnesses. I've never seen quite the level of engagement and focus that members of the committee had in listening to the incredibly compelling testimony from those young people. And they told us about experiences that no child should ever have to go through. And I'm sure that you heard many similar stories yesterday, and you'll hear more today. But they told us about how bewildering the system had been, how it served to fracture relationships with siblings, with wider family and friends that were valuable relationships, how children find themselves being moved often far from home and often being moved frequently and often with too little regard for even really explaining properly to them what's happening or why. So the cliche is that it takes a village to raise a child, and for children in the care system should be that village. But I think the evidence that we have seen in our committee, and that you will have heard as well, tells us that for all too often for care experienced children, the system functions more like a very large and alien city where you don't know anybody and everything is confusing and bewildering and alienating, much more than it really does a village. So I think we should sort of hold that thought in mind. And when we look at the data on the outcomes for care experienced people, it is absolutely dire, and it should shame all of us. And it's so serious that if it speaks directly to other areas of policy as well. So I keep saying to the government, if you're really serious about tackling homelessness, you have to turn attention to care experience. If you're really serious about tackling challenges in the criminal justice system, you have to turn your attention to care experience. If you're serious about improving outcomes in education, you have to turn your attention to care experience. 39% of care leavers, as we know, are not in education, employment or training, compared to just 13% in the wider population. 15% of young people from a care background go to university, compared to 47% of their peers. And when they do get to university, they're 38% more likely to drop out before completing their degree. A third of care leavers become homeless within 2 years of leaving care, and 25% of homeless people have been in care, and an estimated 24% of the prison population have spent time in the care system. These are shocking statistics that should be a wake-up call for anybody who is concerned with delivering better public policy. Our job on the Select Committee is to look at the evidence and to make recommendations to the government and to find the ways in which the system can be made better for the young people who have often been through trauma and who need the system to be able to help them to recover, not to add further layers to their trauma. So some of the headlines, this is a slightly funny timing for me to be speaking to you today, because we've come to the end of all of our evidence and we are just formulating our conclusions now, and our full report will be launched probably within a couple of months, but we're writing it at the moment, so I can't tell you everything that we're going to say, but I can share with you just some of the things that we found where I think change is really needed. The first is that there is really clearly a postcode lottery of services across the country. It shouldn't fall to an accident of where you live to determine the services that you have access to. And we made the case in relation to legislation that's going through Parliament at the moment that there should be a national offer for care leavers, so that it's really clear wherever you live in the country the support that you are entitled to. We've heard about financial difficulties that care leavers face, which have so difficulties getting a bank account, difficulties managing rent, difficulties accessing accommodation, difficulties finding a home because of the need for deposits and guarantors and things like that. We've heard a lot about mental health challenges and the difficulties that there can be accessing reliable long-term mental health support. We've heard about the difficulties in education and employment. And we've heard really about multiple ways in which the systems and processes of government make an assumption that young people, young adults, have support and backup from family, and in doing so, they really disadvantage care experienced people. So I know I'm short on time, so I'm just going to say very, very briefly, I do really welcome the commitments that the government is already making to improve the care system and to improve outcomes for care experienced young people. There's quite a lot in the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill, which is going through Parliament at the moment, that will make a material difference. But I think there's further to go as well, and we will make our detailed recommendations in a couple of months, and I look forward to being able to share all of those things with you. I want to just leave you with the words of Lauren, who is a care experienced young woman who gave, Louise, sorry, I can't read my own handwriting, Louise Fitt, who's a care experienced young woman who gave evidence to our committee, because I think it sums up kind of what we're all trying to do in improving the system. She said, I feel a lot could be explained if professionals understood the experience of trauma. It will take time. It will not go away at night. And sometimes before it gets better, it could get worse. No one talks about that. You will not be okay if you're going into care. There's a reason why you are there. And so it's important that the minute you go into care, every child should have a mandatory assessment, physical and mental, and that there should be that on-call support for them and for whoever is looking after the young person to understand them. I think if we can hold the words of Louise and many other care-experienced young people who are able to articulate so clearly the ways in which the system isn't working as well as it should at the moment, and we can take the commitment that is in the room today, along with the commitment of government to make a difference, then we really can achieve within the life of this Parliament the change that is needed to put more children and young people on a solid foundation for the rest of their lives. Thank you very much, and I wish you well for the rest of the day today.
Wow, some absolutely brilliant words there. Just one thing I do want to say is we talk a lot about statistics, and we did yesterday, and we have to because that's the data and that is what we need. However, I truly believe that when it comes to the voice of those who have experienced it, the lived experience stories from children's mouths, remember, these are real people. These are real human beings. They're not just a statistic. And later on, we will see core and voice. And honestly, anybody who was here yesterday can contest with me that they blew us all away. So there's so much more to come. But I just always want to remember it's the people that we're talking about, not just the data.